Joining us now to clarify this, Senator Amanda Chase. Hey, Senator, good to have you.
Hey, good morning, John. It's great to be on your show this morning.
What about these fake newsers? I read your comment on Facebook. I didn't think anything of it. In fact, you know what I thought when I read your comment, candidly? I'm like, I got to be sure that Ann always has a gun. I mean, that's the first thing I thought.
That's right.
Because in this crazy society, she's by herself a lot. She's got Joseph with her. Sometimes, he's pretty big and strong now, but a lot of times she's, off by herself driving around. And I'm like, I got to get her a gun and a concealed weapon permit. That's her best protection. So what was it on your Facebook post that they took exception to?
Well, I think that the liberal left has a hard time reading and interpreting. I mean, just their interpretation of what I said in the context. If you read the full Facebook thread, instead of taking out one sentence, which they totally blew out of proportion, basically the dialogue had to do with exercising our Second Amendment right to protect ourselves. And every woman and man should have the right to protect themselves whenever and wherever they go. And unfortunately, in today's society, we must take precautions to protect ourselves from harm and evil. And so the criticism, where they totally twisted my words, said something to the extent of, I made the comment that I personally, in a situation, we were talking about this particular liberal socialist said, I don't think that people should be able to carry a firearm in a public park. And I said, well, that's kind of naive, don't you think? Because evil exists everywhere in the world, and it's not exempt or excluded from public parks. And so, therefore, I thought her worldview was very naive, because if you ask even a 5-year-old on the street, they're going to know that there's evil in the world. And so the reason, why this particular person chose to ignore that, I simply called that comment naive. And I said, I have many people in my district who would disagree with your comment. I mean, I have gone with victims of domestic violence and sexual assault and walked them through the process of reporting. And I mean, it is a very sad situation. And so I have a lot of sympathy for women. And I, too, personally, as a child, and I'm not going to go into that, have had a situation where I was taken advantage of. I get it. I mean, I've had probably 4 and 5 people have at some point been victimized. But why would you, as an adult, and having the ability to protect yourself, not do so? It is our constitutional right to bear arms. And, as a woman who is just like a lot of the women in my district, it's important that we protect ourselves. And, I was out yesterday getting a laser for my 38 special so I can, hit my target a little bit better. I think it's important that we as women, that we talk about, and I'm so thankful for this conversation and that all the press attention, because it's not about me. It's about informing women and encouraging them. If you don't have your concealed weapon permit, you need to get it. You need to go through the training. Be prepared. And that's what my other comment was to be prepared. Whether you take, someone else with you, the public park where I go running is deep in the woods. There is a trail that winds through this wooded area, and a lot of times there are not a lot of people back there. So my comment to her was, your comment is naive to believe that there's no evil in the world. I choose to prepare, meaning carry my firearm for someone that could be mace, that can be going with someone else, not going by yourself. Just be smart, be alert, be prepared. And I said, I refuse to be a victim. And so that is a comment that is being completely twisted, making radical, crazy comments that I want to, give 10-year-olds firearms so they can protect themselves in school. I mean, just crazy stuff coming out of the far socialist left. And, I'm going to stand for the Second Amendment. And what I find is ironic. These same people who are supporting the so-called equal rights amendments are the very ones that are coming after and scolding and criticizing women who want to prepare and protect themselves and not be victims. The same people, which I just find is totally hypocritical. I mean, do they want us just to be dependent on the government? I mean, I'm so thankful for my friends who are in law enforcement and protect us and put their lives on the line.
I think what you said is the bottom line. They don't want you to defend yourself. They want you to have to look to the government for everything.
That's right.
Whether it's money, food, your own welfare, or they want you to look to the government. But let me just read to our audience what the Facebook post that Amanda Chase said, Senator Chase said, and the fake newsers at NBC and others took exception to. So let me just read this. And by the way, we're with Senator Amanda Chase, Republican State Senator, Virginia, District 11. That's the Chesterfield area. She's running for re-election in 2019, and she's a significant favorite to win re-election in my judgment over her opponent, Amanda Pohl, I believe. So Amanda Chase, here's what she said. In an online Facebook exchange, the senator told someone, she said, now let me read you the exact quote. "It's those who are naive and unprepared that end up raped. Sorry, but I'm not going to be a statistic." So the way I interpret this is, look, if you're vulnerable and you're not protected, you could be assaulted in some manner, whether it's raped or robbed or mugged or something else. And what Chase is saying is, look, if you're a woman, get a gun, learn how to use it, get a concealed carry permit. And if you're in that unfortunate circumstance, you have an opportunity to defend yourself and stave off your assaulter, whether it be for any reason, nefarious reason. The fake news NBC turns it around into she's saying that people that are raped are somehow victims or something. I mean, I don't even know what she said. The person said, "I was pretty deeply offended as someone who cares about Chesterfield County and as someone who works in Chesterfield County. She's trying to blame rape on the victims, which is unhealthy and not representative as a culture where we're moving." How is protecting yourself blaming the rape on the victim? What the hell are they talking about?
I don't know. My opponent says just call an 800 number, after the fact. I think it's important that we protect ourselves and prevent these types of situations. I remember even being in the Capitol and open carrying, and I was right in front of Meriwether's Cafe. And two people came up to me. They were getting ready to violate my personal space, lay their hands on me because they were upset with me because of some comments that I made in a heat exchange on the floor of the Senate. They looked down and saw my firearm, and they stepped back. I believe that the Second Amendment right and carrying a firearm, whether open carry or concealed carry, it actually protects innocent life. I mean, if you look at the situation that occurred in Virginia Beach with Kate, God bless her soul, who, knew how to carry. She was well equipped. I mean, she knew how to, fire her gun and shoot it. She was practiced, and because of a company policy, and because she's a law-abiding citizen, she follows the policies of her company. She chose to keep her firearm at home that day, but she'd expressed to her husband Jason that day that she was concerned about some crazy guy there that was going to shoot the place up. So she left her firearm at home. She was a victim in the Virginia Beach shootings. And we just all have to think, what could have happened had she, a law-abiding citizen, carry her firearm? Because that's what these gun-free zones do. They strip law-abiding citizens of their ability to protect themselves. The bad guys will always get the guns, no matter what. Murder is against the law. It still happens. We, as law-abiding citizens, must do everything we can to protect ourselves from these restrictive laws. And that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. And however long this gun grab session goes on, any laws that we pass are going to restrict the gun rights of law-abiding citizens, because the bad guys, the criminals, they don't care. They're going to steal the guns from the law-abiding people. They're going to continue to murder. They're going to continue to steal and get these firearms any way they can. We have to, as a society, realize that while I'm against gun violence too, I mean, that's a bipartisan issue. But how we solve that issue of gun violence is where we very much differ. It's very naive, in my opinion, to think that you can take the guns away from the good guys and believe that you're going to have less violence, because 98% of all this gun violence it occurs in these gun-free zones, schools where we have innocent children, places of business where they're restricted and not allowed to carry firearms. And I also look at, referring back to the Virginia Beach municipal building and the shootings that took place there. It was an employee that had that card that he uses to gain admittance into certain sections. And that's what delayed the police from getting into the building and increased the number of victims that we had, because they were not allowed to get back there.
The bottom line of the argument that you're making here is twofold. Number one, gun-free zones are basically just an invitation for attack because nobody has a gun to defend themselves. I mean, that's been proven time and again. So that's number one. The second thing you're saying is people should have the right to protect themselves, whether it's a woman, man, going to work, going to a park, going for a jog, whatever. You should have the right to protect yourself. And that's what a handgun does. And so let's get back to Governor Tunnels tomorrow and his gun grab special session. Amanda, they've got 6 proposals on the table. Look, on the surface, some of them look reasonable, like, be sure you have a universal background check. Don't buy more than 1 gun a month. I mean, those are reasonable arguments. Well, why not take some of their proposals, pass some of them, not the others that are more restrictive, call it a compromise, and go home?
Well, because I don't think the Democrats will stop there. And I have this principle of this. We already have background checks. Anybody and a lot of times the people that are making these restrictive proposals, they've never even purchased a firearm. They don't even know the current existing hurdles, if you will, or checks that you have to go through to purchase and own a firearm. I mean, the background checks, and they're already in existence. And in fact, all of these gun proposals that the governor is proposing, not one of those would have actually prevented this victimization in Virginia Beach. None of those would. Anytime that we're restricting rights, we're only restricting them from law-abiding citizens, and I won't support any restrictions on any of our gun rights. It's in my opinion, a misconception that if we compromise and we give on these are our constitutional rights. I'm not going to compromise my constitutional rights, even a little bit, because whenever you give a little bit, they're just going to continue to take more and more and more.
What do you think the governor's real objective is tomorrow with this special session, Amanda Chase?
Well, John, I feel like, in my opinion, it's a political squirrel to distract voters from the executive branch's scandals that have reached the national spotlight. I think it's a desperate attempt to take the spotlight off of the Democratic Party's failed public reception to implement late-term abortion. You look at that executive branch; they can't even, like you were saying earlier, they can't even come out of their offices because people will throw tomatoes at them. They've lost the confidence of Virginians all across Virginia. Everybody just is in such shock and disbelief at what's going on. And so after numerous attempts to take the spotlight off of them, this is, I think, a Hail Mary pass right before, the November elections to try to get the focus off the executive branch. But I think it's going to fail once again, and I think it's a waste of taxpayer money to revet and rediscuss bills that the General Assembly has already acted on. We've already looked at these bills this year, back at the very beginning of the year, back in the 2019 session. We've already looked at them. Not much has changed as far as the composition of the General Assembly. I think you're going to get the same results that we did back in this past session, and I just feel like it's a complete waste of taxpayer money to rehash the same legislation and expect a different result. I don't think that's helpful.
Okay, I got 2 more minutes. Tell us about your race.
Well, it's a very interesting race. I have an opponent who shares the same first name I do, so it'll be the Battle of the Amandas, I guess. She's
Battle of the
going to have a
Amandas.
very difficult time. I think they had, I've been very blessed and very thankful to have had so much legislation passed this year, 13 signature pieces of legislation, including the coal ash cleanup. Scott Serval and I championed that legislation, got that done this year. Was able to champion the health care transparency cost legislation to lower, to really shed more light on how much it costs when you go to the hospital before you get a procedure done. Repealing the King's Dominion bill. A lot of people are tired of King's Dominion telling our schools when they can start school in the fall. And so this year got that repealed. So I am very proud of all the accomplishments that I've been able to do since I've been there. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, they really can't say anything about my record. So they're going to try to counterfeit me by putting someone in there or trying to run someone against me with the same name, also a Virginia Tech graduate, and someone who says that they're a person of faith. So it's almost like they're trying to confuse people in this election. And so I'm just encouraging everyone to vote for the real Amanda, the one that has real results and has proven themselves that I can work across the aisle, get things done for Virginians. And I also encourage everyone to go online. And if you support the Second Amendment as much as I do, go online to chaseforsenate.com and donate, because that's what Amanda Pohl is doing. She is trying to raise money off of all these issues that are coming up. She is a huge supporter of Planned Parenthood, which she's basically championing the Democratic Party's late-term abortion, which so many of us are against. Sane people are anyway, but so I just encourage everyone to, this is a serious race. I'm taking it very seriously, and we've got an active campaign. We're going door to door. We're doing everything that a campaign should and would do. We're active in the community, and anybody that wants to volunteer or get involved with my race, reach out to us. We'd love to have them.
All right, Senator Amanda Chase, thanks for being with us. Thanks for that clarification. Personally, again, I saw nothing wrong with your Facebook post trying to protect women and advising them to protect themselves with a firearm. And what I got out of it, and I'm going to say it again, is I got to be sure that I get a concealed carry permit for my wife. That's what I got out of your Facebook post. I don't know about anybody else, how they could misconstrue that as to victimization or something else. You got to protect yourself, and I certainly want my wife to be safe. And so I'm going to encourage her to do that as a result of your Facebook post. So thank you for that.
Well, it's all worth it just for that.
I will see you tomorrow. If you want to pop by, we're live in Tim Hugo's office. Also, the John Fredericks Show, 6 to 10. We'll all be there tomorrow, Amanda Chase. And by the way, you're going to win, and then you're going to be serving in the U.S. Senate with a good friend, Joe Morrissey.
I'm looking forward to it.
Life is good, Amanda. Life is good.